I know Blackmagic makes products both for post-production and for production. What's more important for Blackmagic?
You know, it's an interesting challenge that we have sometimes because we'll find that we're creating a $2.95 or a free software that gets used by the highest end of Hollywood, but we're also going to student filmmakers or high schoolers that are just trying to do video for the first time. And it's a really complicated process for us because how do you make a product that's going to meet the needs of Hollywood professionals, but is also usable by, again, 13-year-old girl who's just trying to figure out whoever that person is. And it's really important to us because we want to be able to go to that kind of established Hollywood or big corporate type of client to be able to say, we have all the tools that you're looking for, but there's always that kind of preconceived notion about, well, we want to use this or we have these kind of things. So while we're kind of having to do battle to prove that we're the solution they want to use, some ways it's always better for us to go to find the younger person that doesn't have those established kind of notions of what things are. If I can get that teenager to work with a pocket camera or buy an A10 Mini, once they find success with that, we want to create products that they're able to grow with. So maybe they step into a larger ATEM or a bigger camera, stay with Resolve because it's what they learned on. It was free when they got it. There was so much online training. So we're constantly trying to balance these two things out by always creating a super professional and powerful solution, but always trying to make that accessible to the most people we can so that we can build a bigger kind of catalog of people who can be creative out there. And we feel if we get them in, that they'll be happy with the Blackmagic solution and stay with us throughout their whole lives.
There's incredible value with Resolve. I always encourage people to buy the studio version or just to buy one of your cameras, which then you get the studio version. But even the free version, to me it's amazing that you're giving that much of a product away for free for people to use. Can you give me some kind of an idea of the scale of Blackmagic, the company, your user base? Because I'm here, I see this amazing booth, it's large, it's impressive, and I start to understand that you probably have millions of users of Resolve out there. So.
You know, it's really interesting. We don't do a lot of data tracking of our actual customers. We're very big on privacy and things like that. So in some ways we don't actually know how many users we have, but what we do know is like we have tens of millions of downloads of Resolve every year, and you go, well, I don't know how many of those people are using every function in Resolve. I don't know if some people are just using that for transcoding, but I know there's a lot of interest and there's a lot of people, and it's great when you can go to your own kind of personal hobbies and you start talking to people and they're like, I use Resolve, and you're like, wow, that's so great that it gets used in not just television and film, but across all these different places that want to do video now, and again, because it's free, because of the ease of learning, because of all the videos that are out there about how to learn Resolve, it feels like we've got a lot of momentum going in our favor with where we're going.
And Resolve has one of the best manuals of any product I've ever seen. It's amazing.
We spend a lot of time trying to make this be a full product, not a just half product, not a product that, well, that does really well, but we haven't thought of those other things. We are really trying to think. One of the jokes, you know, we take the design part of Blackmagic design quite seriously, whether that comes down to the manual, the marketing, the trade show booth, and that fit and finish of a whole product is something that we're very proud of and we try to put out there. And again, to make people have confidence that the products that we're making and the solutions that we're building are something they can invest in and build towards the future.
Yeah. Does Blackmagic have a roadmap in mind when you're thinking about products, like say in the camera world, or is it just kind of following the trends of the market?
So we try not to follow trends. We're always trying to balance, it's a delicate balance of trying to take customer feedback about what they want, but then also trying to figure out what they want before they know they want that. And that's a really difficult thing to do, to be able to say, look, everyone can come and tell us like, well, you should build a better, cheaper, faster thing. Like, of course, we'd love to do all that, but it's the what they don't know they need. And we can look at things like the Blackmagic Cloud where people go, look, I know I want to have some of this remote kind of capabilities, but maybe they don't know the details of what would be best for them. And that's the hard part for Blackmagic, to always sit down and say, look, I know what customer feedback is, and that's important, but how do I go and create something that we think in 2 years or 5 years? So we've had people come up and say like, oh, have you done this cloud solution because of the pandemic? Well, I'm not trying to solve the pandemic problems now. That's a somewhat past problem, but I am trying to connect creative individuals going forward so that we shape how post-production is done going forward. And that's a future thinking, and that's the balance between, hey, if I'm building a camera or a new ATEM or no Resolve features, how am I giving customers the things that they do need now, but I'm also looking 2 years and 5 years down the road, and that's a real challenge.
Yeah, that's hard. In this industry too, because technology is moving so quickly, we're seeing developments and sensors and everything else, it makes it hard to know what's going to be next.
Exactly.
We talked a little bit about how some companies are focused on kind of the high-end customer, like Ari and Red. You know, their cameras are many times more expensive, and of course your pocket cameras are relatively affordable. You have the Ursa line, which is a little more expensive. Is it all part of the company mantra to give creators the best? And like, where does that leave you thinking? Like, we're going to aim for this market or this market? Like, how do you decide?
I think it's kind of funny, like often, not all the time, oftentimes we'll start with how do I make $1,000 camera? And it's not about who's that camera for or what are the features going to be in there. It becomes boy, it really feels like we could build $1,000 camera. We have the technology, we have the know-how, we have DaVinci, we have all this stuff. How do we build $1,000 camera? And if we start from there, then you can start doing I could add all of these things, but maybe not these other things. Now, is that a viable product or is that not a viable product? Arguably a very viable product. And sometimes we'll start with that versus saying, oh, here's a gap in the market, or here's a thing, and sometimes it's driven by that. So there's different things that will drive us towards where we want to go there. A lot of times it just comes down to the fact that we'll find a gap that is out there where we'll say, boy, I've got this bits of hardware and it's great for doing live production, but I don't have this thing to monitor audio. We should build an audio monitor, and we'll find those gaps where we say, look, we can fill out a better Blackmagic workflow. But the other hard part there is you don't want to limit people to say, look, you have to be all Blackmagic. So look, if you're using a Canon camera, by all means, we still think we have a great workflow for you for that Canon camera. If you're using a Blackmagic camera, but you want to use a different editing software, please, we hope that you do. We don't ever want to be that, well, now you're in, you can never leave. And but we think that by doing that, that will make people appreciate the fact that Blackmagic is taking those steps to try to remain as open as we can to these various workflows. And if we're providing the best solutions out there, again, we hope more people will use more Blackmagic products, but it does make that challenge when you're looking towards the future and saying, is this product for X person? Because who is $1,000 camera for? Is it for a student filmmaker? Is it for a professional? Is it a B or C camera for a Hollywood film? And it could be all of those things if you do it right.